What is up, all you GBA type people? This is Tom, and we're here with your Week 10 Pick'em crew. With me as always.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's McCaddy, and we're here to bring you the Week 10 Pick'ems. But first of all, obviously, we're going to be running through Week 9. And then, as you guys can see on the video as well, we have unfortunately had to revert to some very rough graphics because unfortunately Ezek is away this week, and we weren't able to get the graphics done in time. But I hope you guys can forgive us for that one.
Alright, so last week's picks, you'll see that for the most part, they were very uniform. You know, we messed up on the George Malvone match, but, you know, we were pretty dead set on George for that one.
Yeah, that was quite a surprise. And then with the Nick versus Nips match, we did decide just to leave this one out because Nips did end up just forfeiting the match, and we thought it was just easier just to leave it out. Makes everything a lot simpler, and we're only really meant to be betting on the actual game, so it doesn't seem fair to bet on that game and sort of have any points for that. So that one's just going to be eliminated for the time being. But overall, for the rest of it, it seemed pretty simple. As I said, the only surprise being George, really.
Basically, for anyone who does like sports gambling, we're going to be pushing that match. You know, like Will said, there were no implications for lock of the week. We all picked the same person, and you know, it didn't have a lot of implications overall. So, with that being said, we're looking at the totals. A lot of 6 and 1s. Well, 3 between Kelly, myself, and Baby Nick. Baby Nick really pushing through. We have 5 and 2 from McCaddy and Hank. 3 and 4 from Burke and Blue. Not a good week for Burke. Kind of fell out of the lead and a little bit behind now. Kelly returned, by the way, for this week. Last week. So basically what happened, he said that he could still pick the matches even though he couldn't really do the power rankings. I guess that makes sense, but good to have him here, so that's a good thing. 7 and 2 for the lock of the weeks for everyone except, well, again, Burke and myself. Burke 6 and 3, and then I'm way far behind at 5 and 4. Finally, the overall to date picks, 50 and 21 for Kelly, coming out of nowhere, and now he's ahead. You at 49 and 22, back ahead of Burke, and then everyone else except Blue is 48 and 23. So
It's really close. And I can definitely see why Kelly decided to come back.
he wants it, man. He wants that pizza.
So moving on to Week 10, we have got some fairly unanimous games, but also some mixed ones as well. So if we start off with Steve versus George, all of us are going for George. I've got my lock of the week on there, and I think, it's sad to say, but I think this is the safest match to bet on, which is why I decided this is my lock of the week. George had his little hiccup last week, but I think he's not going to make the same sort of mistake this week. He's going to make sure, because he really cannot afford to lose this match. And looking at the matchup as well, I feel that Gothitelle can trap a lot of Steve's walls and take them out, especially things like Heatran, you know, a hidden power ground on there or something like that could definitely cause quite a lot of hurt to that. Mega Guard was quite a big threat because obviously George has got quite a slow draft, but I think, we're having Bronze on and things like that. I think George has the potential to have switch-ins to it as well, so I don't think it's going to be the biggest of problems. I don't know, what are your thoughts on Steve versus George?
My thoughts, like what you said, I think this is a pretty safe match. George has the capability to pretty much shut down whatever Steve might come up with. Steve has been doing a great job in terms of team building and just his thoughts, trying to create a very solid team. But I just think George has the upper hand because of just how complete he makes his team. So whatever Steve might come up with, I think George just does it that much better. And not only that, but Steve's luck is, well, for lack of better words, bad. So. And then somehow he's probably going to get screwed again for the umpteenth time this season in this match. So, and then Hank also has his lock of the week for this match, saying last time George lost a game this season, he went on a 7-game win streak. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't lose another game this season. That makes sense, and it's a reasonable assumption in regards to just how George plays because, why not think that? He's a great competitor, and he doesn't lose very often. Next up, we have Fizz and Dan. Now, we're all going with Fizz for obvious reasons. He's just on fire. And, frankly, I liked his little speech after his match from last week when he demolished Crimson. But we have Kelly being the the black sheep over here. Kelly's picking Dan. He says, in big matches where Dan seems to be an underdog, he surprises everyone. This week will be no different. So, he believes that Fizz will, in fact, fall to Dan. Very bold claim. Right, Will?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. I think Fizz has just got the edge on this one in terms of how he's been prepping and how he's been playing as well. And I think also, looking at how well Mega Charizard Y works against Dan's team, I think that's going to be an incredibly spooky thing for Dan to try and have to work around. Especially if Fizz can try and work out how exactly Dan's going to be taking out that absolute beast of a Mega.
Yeah.
So, moving on to the next match, we have got Shady versus Lars, and all of us are going for Lars for this one, with Blue picking Lars for Lock of the Week, saying, just going for a gut feeling on this one. Absolutely fair enough. In my opinion, I think Lars is going to be really hungry for the win for this one, to keep pushing forward and try and get himself into that playoff spot. Landorus is also really scary for Shady's draft, and I just think overall, Lars has just been playing better and prepping overall.
Next up, we have Crimson versus Geo, and everyone's going with Geo on this one. Just, I guess, for the fact that, I mean, Crimson's kind of not defeated attitude, but he's a little bit more lax. I guess he just wants to play out the season and maybe experiment with the team that he has. Play like how kind of Hayden's playing. I think he's officially been eliminated from the playoffs, so we're all going with Geo with this one. I think Geo does have a great capability to push through the rest of this season and potentially put himself in a very good playoff spot. Now, Nick has his lock of the week on this match, saying Geo for the win. That's his reason, and it's a great reason. That's fantastic.
But my thoughts on this is that I just can't see Crimson really putting a lot of heart and soul into this match. I think being eliminated from the playoffs, obviously, and everything like that. And Geo is still in for a chance, so I could see him really pushing for that. And I just can't see Crimson being able to break Geo's wall core, especially when Hippo is one of the main checks to Megazard X as well, especially, obviously in standard OU, but that should hopefully still apply in League format as well.
HP Grass. Next up, we have Gubbs versus Hayden. Everyone going for Gubbs except Blue. Surprise, picking Hayden. And then Burke actually has his lock of the week on Gubbs, saying that Hayden is throwing the towel for the rest of the season. While Gubbs still has a chance to make the playoffs, he needs to win to keep his very, very slim thread of a chance of making playoffs alive. And I think that's what he'll do. Makes sense. The guys that are still viable, have the outside chance to get into the playoffs. They're going to fight, obviously. Steve, for what it's worth, he does have a chance still. He's going to fight. We're going to see guys like Tup still fight and Gubbs. So that definitely does make sense.
Yeah, definitely. In my mind, I call this one the sort of the match of the attitudes. Obviously, it's going to come down quite a lot to how they actually end up approaching the game. But as you said, I think Gubbs has still got a chance to get in there. So I think he's going to have a bit of a better attitude to this game than Hayden. But we'll just have to see. Okay, so moving on to the next one, we've got Nick versus Miguel. And we have got everyone going for Miguel apart from Blue. Now, my thoughts on this is that Miguel has been just prepping incredibly well, especially in these last few weeks. And I'm sure he's going to find some really cool or really sneaky plan to try and break through Nick's absolute crazy bulk for this one, and not really give Nick a chance to get a win with this one, because this is a pretty big game, I think. If Miguel can win this one, it's going to really help him in that playoff race to try and get there.
This is probably going to be one of the better matches this week. I suspect that this is going to be, it's two very competent battlers. Got two guys who, for the most part, playing very well. I think Miguel has a little bit more liberty with how he plans, whereas Nick is kind of, for as good as a team that he has, it's just he's there's not as much diversity for him to use, and maybe not as much depth for him to dive into. Not to say that it's not bad. It's just not as liberating from a draft versus draft perspective. Nonetheless, I think it's going to be a great match for both teams. Next up, we have John versus Tup. Now, this one conflicted me, and I think it's conflicted a lot of people. So that'll lead us right into our weekly chatter point. Burke brought up the point, and I kind of did myself as well. This is a match that has a very interesting implication. So you have Tup, and he needs to win to keep his playoff hopes alive. So if he loses this match, he's done. He's out of the playoffs, and that's especially true if Lars wins his match. And then you look at John, who needs to keep pushing to secure his playoff spot. So we have a headline for both sides, and we have two people who they're consistent when they need to be, and they play really well. It's just sometimes they might slip. So this match could turn into whoever just plays that much better, or whose prep is just that much on point. What do you think, Will?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really interesting game. I think I'm edging for John for this one, just because I was having a look at his offensive cores, and I think that John could very easily produce quite a spooky offensive core that could cause Top a lot of trouble, and he's also got some quite nice defensive answers as well. He's been playing that Reuniclus really, really well, and that has the potential to shut down the Sand core as well. Obviously, he's got to watch out for that Mega T-Tar, but as long as he plays around that, the Reuniclus could give Top quite a bit of trouble there.
Hopefully this match will be very enjoyable once it comes out tomorrow.
So finally we got Nips versus Mulvone, which I personally think Mulvone has got this one. It depends how Nips' attitude is going to be, especially after the forfeit of the last game. If he's going to keep up that, any sort of attitude like that, or whether he's actually going to throw himself back in, I think it's going to be a really deciding factor with this match. I think overall, Nips has been playing, and also I would say possibly has a slightly better matchup towards Mulvone, obviously outside of maybe the Weaver. But if Nips just doesn't have the attitude for it, I think Mulvone might be able to capitalize on that.
And see, that's kind of what I'm basing my lock of the week implication on this match in. So, I'm crazy for locking this week on this match, but if Mulvone wants to get into the playoffs, and he's motivated to do so, after being George last week, he has to win here. He absolutely has to win here. That's my reason. If he wants to use his momentum and swing himself forward past this game and potentially into the last 2 weeks and get himself into the playoffs, he has to use this match as hypothetically last week was his jump, this week is a trampoline, and from there he has to pivot himself right into the playoffs. I think that's what's going to happen this week. I think he has the drive to, and I think he certainly has the planning with his draft to do so against Nips. But like you said, it comes down to the attitude. What does Nips do this week? We'll have to keep an eye on that one. Again, guys, just forgive us for the graphic. Like Will said, our graphics guy, Zeke, is not around this weekend, so unfortunately we couldn't get the nice and pretty layout. Forgive us. Next week, obviously, we'll be back to normal. That being said, hope you guys enjoyed. Leave your picks down in the comments, and any other thing that you guys would like to talk about, maybe we'll discuss it and whatever. With that being said, see you guys on Sunday, and enjoy the matches.
See you guys.